On this episode, join Andy and Luke as they discuss the independent pro wrestling film Powerbomb. Welcome to the Road Home on Film.
All right, folks. Well, welcome back to the Road Home on Film. My name's Andy. I'm coming to you live to tape from the Road Home from Wrestling World Headquarters of the world, and all the way down under, making another triumphant return to the show. It is Luke from Australia. How you doing, Luke?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you, dude?
Not bad. Was that a pretty good introduction? Are you pumped up? You feeling good?
I'm very excited. It's 9:20 in the morning here. I'm still on my first coffee, so hopefully I'm not as grumpy as I appear online.
Why is your nickname Grumpy, by the way?
Yeah, I know exactly the story. WrestleMania, Daniel Bryan versus Sheamus. You remember that match, right?
Oh, sure, yeah.
All right, so one of my first emails into Smart Wrestling Fan, I was like really pissed off that match was 18 seconds. I was a Daniel Bryan guy. I still am. I like the dude. He lost in 18 seconds, and I sent them an angry email, and I asked them for a nickname, and they all agreed for some reason that Grumpy 2 Electric Boogaloo was it.
There you go. Hey, man, we're learning today. You know, we've always said that, yes, the Road Home from Wrestling podcast, it's about covering wrestling. It's about making jokes, but it's educational first. And today, we're going to educate you about a movie called Powerbomb. Luke, what do you know about Powerbomb before we get started? Like, what did you know about it before you recommended that we watch it for the show?
And you throw me out of the bus early, son of a bitch. So you tasked me at the end of the Ed Wood review to kind of like, all right, I've chosen the last two. You should choose a few movies. I came up with one from 1986 that is really hard to come by, called Body Slam. I think we toyed with doing my dad's a heel wrestler, but then I just found this new movie online. I'm like, oh my God, it's a new movie with wrestlers in it. I'm like, wow, this would be perfect for your podcast. And I had no idea that the movie would be quite what it is. I don't take full responsibility because you did invite me and you did ask me to suggest some movies. You could have put a presidential whatever.
A veto? Could have vetoed it there? Well, I was excited to cover this for the show because we're going to learn a lot about this movie and kind of personal connections that I have to a lot of people that have made it. But, you know, how is this movie built? When you look at the cover, what do you see? And do you know the genre of this movie, or did you know it before you watched it?
To be honest, I didn't really read the blurb. But before I was suggesting it, all I saw was like, oh, it's got Son of Havoc in it. Well, I guess Matt Cross, I guess his wrestling name is, Britt Baker, and a couple other wrestlers. I was like, yeah, that might be fun. The poster has this dude in a luchador mask and a machete about to cut some other wrestler's head off, and that never happens.
What? Okay, would it surprise you to find out that the genre of this film is horror?
Yes. Oh, and no.
Would you say that there was any horror in this movie at all?
Not really.
It makes me wonder, and we'll talk about this, about the tone of the characters and stuff like that. It makes me wonder if some of the things that came across as just kind of weird were supposed to be scary. You know, like the manager character, like the promoter manager guy. Like maybe he was supposed to be scary, but he just came off to me as kind of, I don't know, just like a cokehead, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, what was the point of his story arc?
I don't know. So that they could each fights someone. I think the idea between that storyline and the other main storyline is that they were supposed to be having parallel storylines, but when one of the characters from your parallel storyline is interfering in the other storyline, but the other person from that one doesn't interfere in the other one, it's not parallel anymore. It's kind of perpendicular and parallel at the same time, which isn't even a real thing. So that's a problem.
More like, do you remember this character? Here he is for another scene. Now back to the action.
Well, let's get into it. So, Powerbomb.
Break up this important movie to give you another scene with Coke Heyman.
Well, let's get through this because, I mean, hopefully we can get through this before you're on your second coffee because, man, I want to support this movie. I'll just put that out there. However, it's got a lot of problems, and if this was somebody's first try, then God bless you. You did a hell of a job for a first try with no money, and that's kind of what happened. So this was a crowd-funded movie by independent filmmakers in Cleveland, Ohio, which is a couple hours north of me, and a bunch of Cleveland-based independent wrestlers star in the movie. Did you recognize, who did you recognize most from the movie?
All right. So Matt Cross I definitely recognized because I was a big Lucha Underground fan back when it was on TV. Definitely recognized Britt Baker, of course, from AEW. If I can mention the spoiler, I think the third wrestler that I did recognize was Adam Cole, who's in a scene, very short scene. And I'm glad his scene is short. I think he's a better wrestler than he is an actor, and that's fine.
He's in it for literally 5 seconds. He walks up and is like, "Hey, this isn't good enough," and just walks away, and that's pretty much it.
He made an impression though.
He did because okay, so this movie is filled with independent wrestlers have no acting experience and independent actors who have very little experience, or so it seems according to the internet. What did you think of the actors in the movie? So the three major actors, I would say, and I have the main guy's name. So the bad guy, his name's Wes Allen, the actor. That would be the fan character. What did you think of his job in this movie?
I thought he did a good job. I think he did about as good a job as he could have done. I'd say he's easily the best actor in the movie. He goes for broke. He really sells this character. Now that doesn't mean that his performance is amazing or groundbreaking, and it's going to launch him into the stratosphere or anything. But I could see him playing some kind of murderer on SVU or something.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. He was very friendly looking as well, and that's one of the things. He looks like a wrestling fan, yes, and maybe he hits a little too close to home with that too. But he looks like a friendly wrestling fan that you'd meet at the merch table, and he'd be like, "Hey, I like Daniel Bryan too. You're wearing a Daniel Bryan shirt," and you guys would be friends on Twitter. That's what he looks like, and he's supposed to be this really scary guy in this movie with kind of a little goofy twinge to him, but he really sells it. He does his very best. I think Matt Cross does a good job in this movie too. Britt Baker, she's in our favorite scenes probably. And then the woman who plays Matt Cross's wife, if I tell you what, I don't know if she's a good actress or not. I don't know. But the camera was so close to her face, I could see up her nose in every scene that she's in. And that was so distracting, I couldn't even look at her acting, so I couldn't even tell what she was doing. What did you think of her?
No boogers, which is something that's really good when you get in extreme close-ups like that. You're right, though. They're like these real Sergio Leone-esque extreme close-up that you'd get in his westerns. But you're right. It does tend to be front and center on her face more than really anyone else's face. I didn't pick up on that until you just mentioned it. I thought she was a wrestler as well. I actually asked you about that because for some reason, we ended up watching this almost at the same time a couple of nights ago. And I asked, because there's a couple scenes where she does wrestling moves and stuff, and I didn't recognize her. So I was like, is she an independent wrestler or something? No.
Jeez. So she's... So she plays Matt Cross's wife, and we'll get into her and everything. And their relationship is extremely confusing because at times in the movie you think that they're married, and at times you think they're separated, and then at times you think they're a tag team, and then at times I don't know. All the relationships in this movie are very confusing, but there's a lot of confusing things into this, and let's get into it. Did you catch this opening? So the movie opens, and this is the sign of a bad movie, Luke. And you watch a lot of movies, and I beg you to pay attention to this from now on. The sign of a bad movie is it starts with black screen with white text on it, okay? That is the absolute sign of a bad movie. Almost every bad movie in the world starts that way. And this one has a quote from Mick Foley that has absolutely zero relevance to the movie in any way, shape, or form. It says, wrestling has become so good at creating the illusion of disaster that when disaster does hit, it's very difficult to tell the difference. What did you think?
There are no scenes where something's happening in a ring, because that's a wrestling quote. So he's talking about a wrestling show where wrestling's happening.
Yeah.
There's no point in the movie where there's a wrestling match happening and any people, the audience or people in the crowd, there's no parts where the audience are like, oh, wow, is that real? Oh, holy shit, does that guy get really injured or something? No, nothing like that.
Do you think that they had a lot of ideas for this movie that they couldn't pull off just for the simple fact that they ran out of money, they didn't have enough people to do it, whatever the case may be? Oh, here's another interesting thing about this. This movie was filmed in 2018, all right, and they just were able to get it, published here in 2020. And how long is the movie, Luke?
1 hour, 19 minutes, and 54 seconds.
Is that technically a movie? I mean, to me, feature length is how you define a movie, right? I mean, what do you think?
That would be a movie in the 1940s, and they would play like maybe an animated short or a Flash Gordon before it or something. Okay. So if you were going to buy this movie, they should have maybe stuck an animated short or something in the start, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, it's very short for a movie.
I saw many opportunities for them to stretch this out a little bit or add something or, spend time on certain things that could have made this a 90-minute movie. But they tend to, spend lots of long, drawn-out scenes on things that didn't seem to, help the story. They just kind of padded time. But anyway, okay, I'm sorry. I'm trying to be positive here. It's difficult. So the movie opens. What's that, Luke?
Because I don't know. You can be positive, and since there's only two people I know of that I talk to that live in Ohio, that's you and maybe Larry from Smart Wrestling Fan. Since you two are the only two from Ohio I really know, I probably don't have to be as nice as you. I'm not going to go all out and be mean or anything, but because they're probably passionate about this project and they worked hard on it. But one thing they didn't have much money for is you asked me about horror elements, and I'm thinking they can't really afford to do gore or too much blood or something, or they don't know how because they've never made a horror movie or something before, and that's perfectly fine too. But yeah,
I don't think they know how. We'll talk about that at the end of the movie. Okay, so it opens up on a shot of Matt Cross's chest. And he's working the fuck out, and he's doing sit-ups and shit. And we're immediately introduced to the sleazy promoter character. But he's a promoter, but he's his manager. It's confusing, And some things in pro wrestling they get right on purpose just to show you, like, hey, we're getting this right. And then some things they completely botch for no reason whatsoever. So, I'm not sure what his role is, but he's a promoter and he is Matt Cross's manager. Now, Matt Cross plays Matt Cross in this movie, but he's a different person, obviously. And so pardon me, this promoter guy, Solomon is his name. He reminds me of a shitty version of Michael Madsen.
I called him Lame Heyman.
Lame Heyman. There you go. He gets progressively more unglued as this goes on, but it doesn't have the effect that it's supposed to. Anyway, so he says sleazy things to Matt Cross like, there's 7,500 people out there. There are not, by the way, because we hear a crowd, right?
Yeah, there's lots of empty seats there.
Oh, yeah. So, and we'll talk about that here in a second. I have some interesting information about all that. So, then we go out to the ring, and there is a match, and it's a triple threat match. It's Gregory Iron, the handicap hero, versus Super Cop Dick Justice versus Matt Cross at AIW. Now, you were interested in these guys, huh? Do you know anything about Dick Justice and Gregory Iron?
I do not. I did make a joke that I thought Dick Justice looked a bit like Ron Jeremy, and like that was even more. I felt that even more because like he's a big dude with a mustache, and his name is Dick Justice. I'm like, that could easily be a character that Ron Jeremy played in one of his flicks.
Well, I am going to recommend to folks, if you don't watch this movie, and maybe you will, maybe you won't, but if you want something else to spend your time on that doesn't take that much time, look up on YouTube Super Cop Dick Justice. He has a movie called Super Cop, and it is fantastic. Gregory Iron's in it, and Super Cop Dick Justice is a comedy wrestler who dresses like a police officer. He comes out to the police academy theme, and he uses a finger pistol to attack foes. He's outstanding. I love him. Now, Gregory Iron, I believe, has multiple sclerosis. I'm probably wrong on that. He has a handicap of some kind, and he's used that to his effect, to his betterment. He actually used to tag with Zach Gowen, and they were the handicap heroes. So Gregory Iron's awesome. I've seen him wrestle a million times. I've met him. Same thing with Super Cop Dick Justice, and Matt Cross I've met as well. Now, did you notice where they were at? I mean, you probably didn't notice that the entrance said AIW right on it, right?
I didn't notice that, but there's a thing you probably mentioned. I might as well mention it now, where the ring canvas, there's no canvas on the ring. It's the shiny underpart. That's what you told me it was when we were talking about the flick online. And maybe they didn't put the canvas down on top because it had all this AI double wrestling logos and stuff, and they didn't want to advertise. But yeah, I guess they still had something sneak by them.
Well, most rings most people that have a ring, I wouldn't say most, but some people who have a ring, they have 2 or 3 canvases. So they may, some people like to put the vinyl canvas down first and then put a canvas over top of that, actual cloth one. But sometimes when it's hot or when there's going to be a death match or where there's going to be a birthday cake thrown around in the ring or something, they may leave the canvas one off and just go with the vinyl one because it's easier to clean. But I don't know why, but yeah, they just had the vinyl one on, and we had ourselves a match here. Now, this is when some of the issues with production become evident. Tell me about the sound effects during this.
It's awful. The sounds feel kind of subdued and muted in a way. They don't sound the way you think they might sound. They don't sound like a normal wrestling match if you're watching normal wrestling, and they don't sound like the sound effects you actually use for a movie either. They're not even cartoony. They're kind of tone deaf, if that makes sense. The sound.
Well, they sound like this. It's like.
So I imagine that everyone involved in this movie is some form of wrestling fan. They know wrestling, all that kind of stuff. They know that more than the horror genre, right? So you think the wrestling parts are the parts they'll just nail down because they know all that. But they don't nail the wrestling parts because the sound is kind of awful. The wrestling is fine, like Matt Cross and the other 2 gentlemen. they do a good job. It looks like a fun indie match that would have been nice to see live.
That very well could be a match that has or would happen at AIW. AIW's Absolute Intense Wrestling up in Cleveland, Ohio. I've been there once, and the show that I saw was in that room. The Lady of Mount Carmel. It's like a elementary school gymnasium, and it's actually a tremendous place to see wrestling. I had a blast up there. AIW's awesome. And, and because this was filmed a couple years ago, like Dick Justice quit wrestling like a year and a half ago. So he's not even around anymore. And, things have changed a lot. But, one of the things that haven't changed is that Matt Cross is awesome, and that Justin Summers from Wrestling Cheers is front and center. And there's one of my podcast buddies from Cleveland, Justin Summers, is in this movie, and he is one of the extras. So basically, they asked a bunch of people to come in and be extras, and they only got so many. And it seemed to me like they tried to push them all over to one side in one shot, and then in another they were on the other side, but they kept getting the empty seats. So it was not 7,500 people as the promoter guy said. And Justin Summers chants, "Holy shit!" So shout out to Justin. Who won the match?
You're not one of the extras in this, because you would have had to be really nice, and I would have been, wait, are you crazy? The movie's like this, and you would have been, I'm in this movie. I've got to put it over big time.
One more step to a SAG card. That's all I want. I just want that insurance, Well, so who won the match here? Did you see?
Well, it's Matt Cross, of course.
Yeah, he's the greatest, And so Matt Cross goes to the back, and he's getting dressed and everything, and the promoter comes over and says more promoter-type things. He says things that don't make any sense. And then we get this scene where I don't even think they cut. They just hold on this scene forever. And it's Matt Cross talking with the two wrestlers he just wrestled to let everybody know, hey, this is all a work, brother. And what do they talk about, Luke? Did you catch any of this?
Was this where they're talking about his career? Because Matt Cross apparently had the crowd eating out of the palm of their hand. He's like some megastar, even though if he was that big a megastar in the universe of this movie, he would have drawn more than... Look, there's not 7,500 people. There's a 7 in it. It's more like 17 or 7. If he's this big star, he would have drawn a few more people. yeah, probably like that. But they're talking like he's the big breakout star that might go to the big leagues, right?
That's kind of like where he seems to be in his career, in this. Now, I listened to a couple other reviews, like some YouTube video reviews. One review hated this movie so much. The other one was clueless and just acted like this is the greatest thing on earth, and I don't see how. But they all seem to think that Matt Cross was thinking of retiring, and that was part of the story. Did you catch that at all? Because I did not.
I think maybe, do you get the impression that there's two scripts going around, like a first draft and a second draft?
Yeah.
And not everyone got all the drafts, because there's a couple threads here and there that really don't end up going anywhere or being a major part of the story or anything like that. But what this movie loves to do, and that's this scene where he's talking to Dick Justice and Greg Iron, is what happens a lot in the movie, where it's just 2 or 3 dudes just standing around talking at each other, and that's most of the movie. This is the only wrestling match, isn't it?
Yes.
Like the wrestling match at the start's the only one. And did you see? Right, the movie poster has a guy with a machete. That's fine. That never happens. It's annoying, but that's fine. The movie's called Powerbomb. How many power bombs did you see in this movie?
I didn't see any power bombs, Luke. It's kind of false advertising a little bit. I mean, I do have an issue when a movie, like, here's a couple things, okay? When you buy or rent a movie and you pay money for it, you're thinking you're getting a few things. One of the things you think you're getting is what's on the cover, all right? That's one thing. Another thing you're getting is at least a 90-minute movie, all right? And then, another one is that if the title, a lot of times the titles don't have anything to do with the movies, but if the title is a wrestling movie called Powerbomb, you're expecting to see some power bombs, right?
Well, the movie's called Powerbomb, so at least one.
Just one big one. Okay.
I'd be happy with one. Now, I would have preferred like 2 or 3, but yeah.
Oh my God. Okay. So next, Adam Cole, there he is. He talks to Solomon about money, and they plot to rip off Matt Cross together. But I mean, it's literally like, hey, buddy, you got that money for me? He's like, oh, I got to give this to Matt. Oh, I'm not going to give that to him. I'm giving that to you. See you later, movie. And that's Adam Cole's whole role in the movie. But don't you think they would have advertised more that he was in the movie? Do you think that maybe they got told not to or something like that?
It's quite possible they were told not to. I also find it a little strange because he's in the movie for 5 seconds and Adam Cole's acting's kind of shit. And I'm a little surprised by that because if you're in the WWE, I think you get used to a more scripted style of doing your promos and all that kind of stuff. So you're kind of told in advance this is what your character is and what you're doing. So I thought he'd have a little bit more experience and being like, all right, these are my lines. I've just got to hit these lines and that's it. Oh, yeah, I can do that. He still kind of sucks a little bit.
Oh, my God. Okay, so Matt, when he was talking to the other guys, they were also doing that thing in movies that crappy movies do where they give you, they tell the story by just saying it. For example, we learn about the character by him saying things that are going on in his life. Like, for example, hey, you want to go out and get drunk tonight? I don't drink. I didn't drink then. I don't drink now. I'm getting a call from my wife. My wife. She sure did used to be a wrestler. Like, that's what they're saying. And it's just kind of like, oh, why are we doing this? I mean, the number one rule in movie is show me, don't tell me. And sometimes, like with voiceovers and things like that, you can break that rule in an artistic way that works for the story, like in a detective story. You've been watching a lot of those lately. They all have voiceover, right? But it serves the story, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think there's no voiceover in this. And you're right. It is very exposition-y. All the dialogue in this movie, almost from the whole thing. I think it's because maybe they didn't know how to show and not tell, or maybe they didn't have the budget to show, so they had to put in like maybe more dialogue scenes just to tell you what the hell's going on.
It's true. It's obvious they didn't have enough money, so we're not trying to make fun of them. I'm just I can't, this is a movie review. I have to tell you what I thought, and some of these things are just like, what? Okay, so then Matt talks to his wife on the phone, and it turns out they have money problems, right? So now we have a kind of connective tissue here because we have the promoter screwing him out of money. He's having money problems. Okay, so there's something going on there. So then this is so confusing. Okay, I don't know if you had the same problem that I did with these kinds of scenes, is the geography of a movie. Okay, and this is something that bad movies or first-time movies have a lot of problem with is the geography. For example, the next scene is Britt Baker in the backyard of a house, and she is babysitting Matt's kid. So she's in the back of the house. Now the next scene, like the next time we see her, she's in the house with the wife, but like we don't see where. It's confusing because we don't know that she's at their house when she's babysitting. You know what I mean? And it's like now they're inside. I don't know. It's confusing. Did you have problems with the geography and why are they suddenly there? How did that person get there? Like those kinds of things.
Yeah, and also like, what's Britt Baker's relationship to the other two? All right, she's an injured wrestler. They get that out of the way pretty fast, and she's wearing some weird Adam Cole shirt that looks like a Bullet Club shirt. I don't know what that's all about.
Super Click. That's
But
from back in the day, man. That's when he was in the Bullet Club.
he was in the Bullet Club?
Yeah, come on. So years ago, he was basically
My New Japan knowledge is from like when I started watching it to now. So
this is a Ring of Honor thing. So he did appear in New Japan a couple times under the Bullet Club banner, but he was basically the Kenny Omega for the Young Bucks in America. So then they were called Super Click, and they like ruled PWG and Ring of Honor for a couple years. I'm surprised you don't know that, Luke. What the hell?
to be honest, I've not really seen that much of Adam Cole's work. I don't watch NXT, so I don't know. People can swear, but yeah.
I saw him all the way back in like 2013 or 2014 at some Ring of Honor show. Wasn't impressed. Everyone was talking about this guy, so great. And I'm thinking, man, I just don't get it. And then I went to a Ring of Honor show where I found out he had double pneumonia, and he had like a 30-minute main event with Leo Rush, and it was just fantastic. And that was like in 2015 or 16. And ever since then, I was like, okay, I get it. He's great. But yeah, he used to be the kind of Kenny Omega to the Young Bucks here in America. So, see, education first. Now, the other thing that's interesting is Britt Baker mentions that she has a torn meniscus, which is absolutely repairable injury that someone can absolutely recover from, but she acts like that she can't ever wrestle again.
Yeah. The movie heavily implies that she's done. Her career's over. So thank you for educating me on that. I didn't know how serious an injury that was or was not. Mate, told me that it's not a serious injury. I'm just like, Big Britt Baker's character is a giant wimp.
Maybe she doesn't have insurance. That's what it is.
Maybe she didn't like tag teaming with Amy Cross. Amy Cross is Matt Cross's wife. Apparently, they used to tag team.
Well, she must have she probably botched something and got her knee shredded. It's probably her fault.
They used to tag team, but Amy actually tag teamed with Matt. So
confusing.
Like, huh? Yeah.
All right. So Britt Baker, though, she does pretty good. We'll have some nicer things to say about her later. She does a great job in this movie. And she seems like who she's playing. Like, she looks like a late 20s, kind of still acting like a teenager type of girl who's down on her luck. And that's what she looks like. And that's what she plays. She does a good job at that.
Yep.
So let's see here. Then we have a fan that interrupts. Oh, yeah. And we do get introduced, I'm sorry, to Matt's kid, whose name is Cash. Why is his name Cash, Luke?
What's the deal with this kid? Because like his mum's a redhead. Matt Cross is like dark haired, and he's got the blondest McBlonde hair possible. Also, Cash is a really dumb name, and every time you talk to Cash, you'll probably be reminded of how short of cash you are.
He's not very good. He does okay. I mean, kid actors are usually terrible, and he does fine. So I'm not saying he doesn't. But for a kid actor, he does good. For an actor, it is what it is. So, okay. So a fan interrupts this phone call between Matt and his wife, and he gets a little handsy. And Matt's like, "Hey, I'm on the phone with my wife," and the guy's like, "Oh, just one picture." And this is our kind of main bad guy here. What'd you think of this introduction to the bad guy? And did you sense tension that there would be problems here?
Not really. I just thought he was a really rude jerk. I knew he'd come back or something. I think it was around this stage that I took a quick squiz at the blurb, because by the time that scene happens, it's like 15 minutes in, nothing really horrifying or evil has happened yet, and he's the most creepy person we've seen so far. But
go ahead, man. I'm sorry.
No, you're all right.
Okay. Well, all right. So he basically just gets pissy with him. Matt gets pissy with this fan, and it's like, "Hey man, leave me alone. I'm trying to talk to my wife." And he gets all shitty, and the pressure's on for Matt. Matt's got a lot of pressure on him. Got this damn kid. He's got this damn wife. Britt Baker's like fucking camping out of his house, I guess. And he's got this guy ripping him off. There's a lot going on. Dick Justice trying to get him to get drunk with him. So the promoter guy discusses a Lego death match on the phone, and I lose my mind. I stood up and was like, "Are you shitting me? You just said Lego death match." Here's an interesting story, Luke. So I know a local promoter that tried to advertise a Lego death match, and he actually got the company was called Intergender. Or not intergender, it's called Interspecies Wrestling is the name of the company. And they tried to advertise a Lego death match. They got hit with a cease and desist from Lego.
You think they could use Duplo instead?
So another friend of mine was running a show, and that was going to be his main event, was also going to be a Lego death match. So he changed it to multicolored building blocks that hurt death match. So it was pretty So, so he says Lego deathmatch, and Matt needs money. So they disagree about the money. The promoter gives him some, but and then we learn that Matt's wife left wrestling, so Matt won't take the money that he needs to get.
I need money. Here's money. I'm too proud to take this money.
You just earned it, dumbass. He's trying to pay you for the job you just did, and then to pay you for the job you're going to, So I don't understand. Plus, your manager isn't who pays you. I don't get it. Anyway.
So the manager ends up being a cokehead, right?
Yes.
So wouldn't it make sense for really early on in the movie, because he does this really late in the film, and you're like, oh, he's a cokehead. Okay. If he did it earlier on in the movie, and then he had a conversation about getting paid more, like Matt Cross and the promoter guy. The promoter guy could be like, "Oh, this is all the money that I have to give," and you think to yourself, "Where's the rest of it?" Then you find out later he's snorting up all the profits or something. But nothing like that happens. He's kind of got a sleazy vibe to him, but then he doesn't even rub his nose or anything like that might give you an indication that, hey, this guy's a drug abuser, right? So it kind of comes out of left field.
There's one scene where he sniffs right in the middle of talking, and that's it. And I mean, I was like, what is that? Was that I thought for a second it was just a bad take they left in, honestly. Until the end of the movie. So anyway, okay, so this is where our big scene happens, where we got this is the thing that's on the cover of the movie, not really, but we get Matt Cross trying to get in his car to leave to go to the next gig, and what happens here, Luke? Tell me about this.
This is where he gets kidnapped, isn't it?
Correct.
Yeah. This. By the way, as to that fan, he's super annoying. Like in all the really super annoying, intrusive, obnoxious ways there is. Like you can tell Matt Cross is on the phone to his missus or something. You can just wait until he's off the phone, then you can interact with him. But no, it's all about him. Give me attention. I'm your fan. I'm more important. I'm like, the dude's talking to his wife. You're like the least important thing he's got going on right now. Just give him a couple minutes. He probably would have done the selfie and everything might have been fine, right? But instead, he's just a rude dickhead, and not long after he talks to his manager or his wife, or both actually, because there's wife on the phone, then his manager or his promoter. I don't know. He's both.
So confusing.
He gets drugged and knocked out and something like that, and dumped into a car.
Do you think that there was a scene that they had planned where this guy was going to hit him over the head with the handle of this machete or something like that, or threaten him and then inject him? Because we get a close up of the dude in the mask, and we know it's him. It's obvious it's him. It's obvious it's the fan. There's no one else that has that body shape that's been introduced in the movie. There's no one else it could be. It's got to be him. It's literally right after that scene, and then we see a close-up of him squirting liquid out of a hypodermic needle that he then close-up injects into skin. So I think that that's something they could have shoved in there after they got done and realized that they didn't get that. You know what I mean? I don't know, something goofy there. It's weird. All right, so let's see here. Then we're introduced to Paul the Crazy Fan. All right, that's his name. He's watching AIW, which is cool. It's actually, I think it's Johnny Gargano versus Matt Cross that he's watching. He explains his thoughts on wrestling in a voiceover. So we do get voiceover here. And he has the same lucha mask we see. So he's kidnapped Matt and chained him up in his basement very haphazardly. And Paul reveals his face, and he's crazy, and he's Matt's #1 fan. What'd you think of this, Luke?
I'm like, oh shit, this super fan's Kathy Bates, isn't he?
You've seen The Fanatic, right?
With John Travolta?
Yeah.
I have not.
Oh.
But I have seen Misery, and this is, I don't know how much of a rip-off of The Fanatic is, but if Fanatic also has this plot, well, then they both kind of took it from King anyway.
It's kind of, Gerald's Game has a similar plot. A lot of these, some of these movies have the same plot. But yes, this is the same plot as Misery. However, I don't know that we really ever know. Like in Misery, we know Kathy Bates has a clear reason why she's kidnapped him. She found him on the side of the road. She's helping him, but then she learns that Ed Harris, the character in the movie, he has killed off one of her favorite characters. So she's forcing him to rewrite it. Why is Paul?
James Caan, by the way.
What's that?
James Caan, sorry.
Oh, James Caan. Shit. Why? I thought it was Ed Harris. I'm wrong. Anyway, I've been watching Westworld. That's fine. So, what is Paul's motivation? Why did he kidnap Matt Cross?
All right. Do you remember when Bray Wyatt wasn't the Fiend? He was normal Bray Wyatt, and he would come out and he'd give these promos, and at the end of the promo, you were just like, all right, he's a great talker, but what the fuck did he just say? Yes. That's this guy. That's how cryptic this dude is. Like Matt Cross will be like, "What do you want?" And then he'll just go on this kind of giant spiel, and at the end of it, Matt Cross and the audience are kind of going, "Wait, what does he want?" Everyone's scratching their head.
I don't know why he kidnapped him, just because he's crazy, but there's no motivation. He says that he's trying to teach him something, but we never really learn what that is other than he wants him to eat pizza or something. I don't know. It's fucking weird.
Pizza sounded like shit too.
Yeah, onion and bacon? Get out of here. Sorry.
The super fan says, that's your favorite. You said it once. I'm like, and he's like, no, it's my mum's favorite. Why would you cut a promo about your mum's favorite pizza?
Well, it's the reason that part is in the movie is the same reason this guy's overweight and has a beard and tattoos. It's the same reason. It's because it's just stereotypical shit that wrestlers have to put up with from fans. Getting things wrong that they read on Wikipedia or whatever and thinking that they know the person. That's their way of kind of communicating that to the audience. It's just not really in the language of film, so it doesn't really come across like it's supposed to. So, oh my God. Okay.
I see where they were going with this, but the problem was, did you see this guy, Paul? His name is Paul, isn't it?
Yes.
The creepy dude. All right. Do you see him in the crowd at the start?
I didn't even look, but I bet he was in there.
He's probably in there. I didn't look too closely either. FYI, if I'm on your show, anyone listening, if I'm on Andrew's show, I'll watch the movie twice. We both decided we'll watch this movie once. So that might tell you a little bit about what we thought of it.
Couldn't do it.
So if you're annoyed when Andrew's going, so what did you think about this, Luke? And Luke's like, you kind of know why.
Oh my God. Well, I'm glad we spared ourselves that though, because good Lord. So then we see Cash and his mom Amy. So we finally get to meet Amy, and she asks his mom why she doesn't wrestle anymore, mommy, and it's complicated. And they talk about wrestling and how him and his dad got together, how the mother and the father got together, and they say things like heel and babyface and tag team and work and shoot because they know the wrestling's stuffs. Any comments or concerns about any of this?
Well, I figure most people watching this movie are going to be wrestling fans, right? So they're going to be like, oh, yeah, I know what they're talking about. But if you don't watch wrestling, or if you're a more casual fan and you don't really give a shit about learning the inside jargon that they use, you keep thinking, what's a work? What are they talking about? Heels and baby? What does any of this mean? So there's no explanation for that.
No.
They just assume, no.
So now we get a flashback, okay? And this is how they got together, how Matt and Amy got together. So we have a flashback of Amy coming out after a show, getting harassed by Ricky Shane Page. Which is awesome. So Ricky Shane Page is, one of the Ohio guys. I mean, he is, won Tournament of Death a couple times. He's been, a big wrestler for a long time. Right now, he is the top heel in GCW to the point where people are literally trying to kill him. He's got so much heat. So Ricky Shane Page is awesome. And
Which one is he? Is he the big one?
Yes, he's the big one. I didn't know who the smaller guy was in this scenario here. Right. But she beats up Ricky Shane Page, and there's another guy who tries to break it up, and Matt comes out and just kind of puts him against the wall and lets Amy beat up Ricky Shane Page, and that's when she knew she loved him, or that they were meant to be, because he let her fight her own fights, you see, because she is a strong woman.
Yeah. I'm surprised it wasn't more of a real fight. They actually do wrestling moves and stuff. I mean, if I'm watching a wrestling movie, that's kind of how I'd like to see brawls happen anyway. But and this is about the time in the movie where I sent you a message going, is Amy an actual wrestler? Because she was fine. She
did fine, yeah. And this was one of the few scenes where the camera wasn't 2 inches from her face, so that was nice. So then we get, all these scenes that we're talking about are cut in with Paul, the crazy fan, just rambling at Matt. I didn't write down any of the stuff that he said, really, because it's just all bullshit. It's just nonsense. He's got a mother who has cancer. His brother sends money, and he sends money like that's even a help. Like that. Like, the stuff he says doesn't make any sense, and the idea is it's supposed to make you think he's crazy, but it just kind of it's like a lot of the stuff that people say in the movie doesn't make any sense. So it's like, is everyone crazy? I don't know. So then we switch over to the promoter. And again, these things we're just moving from scene to scene, no kind of cohesion or reason why this story is moving to this part and that part. So the promoter takes a call, Solomon, and saying Matt hasn't shown up for a booking. He's so pissed off. He's in his car. He's like, fuck, shit. Fuck. And Matt can't reach his phone, though, because he tries to call him, but Matt's just inches away from reaching his phone down in Paul's basement. So Matt gets taxed by Paul for his insolence. So basically, what is that? Is that tortured or taxed? What do I mean by that? I'm trying to think of what that note means. I think maybe he gets tortured by him or something. I can't remember what he does to him, but it's
very light torture. Like, if you're thinking, if anyone listening here is thinking, oh, it's like Misery, so he's going to bring out Sledgy and break Matt Cross's legs or something. No, he does some very light torture-y things, but the rest of the whole torture, though, is just listening to this guy talk.
Yes,
I think that's the torture.
So we're all being tortured. All right, so the promoter guy shows up and acts psycho to Amy. So he shows up at the house, and this is one of those moments where she's standing in a room, and all of a sudden the promoter's standing there, and she's like, what are you doing in here? And he just walked in their house. And then Britt Baker shows up, and she walks in the house, and they're all talking, and the camera is so close to them. I don't understand why it's up their ass. I mean, the camera is so close, and they film this in a room that's big enough where they don't have to necessarily be standing 2 inches away, but they're 2 inches away from each other, just screaming, and yelling and stuff. And man,
have you ever seen The Room?
I have, yes.
All right. So this isn't as bad as The Room, so I'm not going there with that. But where I am going there with this is, in The Room, no one knocked on the door then. everyone's like Kramer. They just barge in and at certain times and just interact with the other characters. That's the Cross household. People are in the Cross household, and then other people just barge in and start stating their business and getting all up into Amy's face.
It's true. It's true. So the promoter, Solomon, I'll start calling him Solomon. I'm sorry. So Solomon says to her that he's basically like, well, if Matt's not going to wrestle, then you're going to wrestle, right? And she's like, but I'm retired. I don't wrestle. Oh my God. And Britt Baker shows up and kind of scares Solomon off, which is weird because Amy's bigger than Britt Baker and she's healthy. It doesn't make sense. So he leaves and they drink liquor together, and Britt is jealous of Amy because Britt can't wrestle anymore, question mark, question mark, question mark. This scene needs some music or something because they just, there's it's silence. Most of this movie has no score, and that's another thing that makes it seem cheap, makes it seem not well made, is there's no music at all, right, except like the very beginning and the end, right?
Yeah, and maybe during the wrestling match there's some music as well, but that doesn't last for the whole match.
There's very little, and so it's only maybe at a couple dramatic points. Maybe they throw it in there, but I don't think so. So it makes it feel like it's not done yet, And I'm not trying to. All right, I've already qualified my criticisms. Anyway, so this scene needs some music, like I said, and then Britt Baker, she kind of lectures Amy about like, hey, you got something I wish I had. Let's get drunk. So there's a weird shot in this scene of just a tray of cookies. Did you notice that?
Oh yeah, and at the end of the scene, Britt Baker's like, I'm going to take some of these.
But it's like they needed something to cut to for coverage, so they just cut to a tray of cookies. What does this got to do with anything? So, all right. So we go back to Matt and Paul. Paul's brought him pizza that's onions and bacon. And he says, oh, your mom you love this. Oh, no, it was my mom. I don't know where you got that information. And Paul rants and acts crazy. So Paul's mom has cancer, he says, and Matt discusses his youth. And this is like the best part of the movie as far as like legitimate, good acting, movie making, all that stuff. This is great. So Matt discusses his youth. He beat up his abusive dad. His mom had breast cancer, and then he became a pit fighter. And that's when I was like, wait a second. So then he became a pit fighter. He took a dive, ended up getting the money that his sister bet on him to lose to help his mom, but she died of a heart attack. But guess what? It's all bullshit, right, Luke? What'd you think of all this?
I thought it was a work. Like he worked him. He's telling his whole story and stuff, and I'm buying it to a certain point. But just like you, all right, this is going way too long. He's gone way too crazy with his story. But Paul's eating it up, like, oh wow, really? Because he's a wrestling fan and he's a big fan of Matt Cross, so obviously he'd be a fan of Matt Cross promos too, wouldn't he? And he's totally taken in by it, like a like a mark. So sometimes you're not sure if this guy's a smart fan, like who knows the business and things like that, or if he's just a complete idiot. I don't know. He sometimes when something he says, he sounds like he knows what he's talking about with the business, and then other times it sounds he's just like easily duped.
Well, and this scene proves that they had good ideas. But here's my problem with the scene is I want that movie. I want the movie where Matt Cross becomes a pit fighter and his sister, is a junkie and she bets on him, but then they end up. I want that movie,
Dude, not only is he a pit fighter, he's beat the shit out of this guy so bad that this guy he's beaten up, his manager or something, who can be Solomon, throws in a machete, and you're like, oh shit, now it's on.
See, man, that would have been a better movie. So, all right. So some thugs come up and they shake down Solomon. So we start to realize that he's having money problems too, and he owes somebody money. And the two guys that shake him down are independent wrestlers. One is a former independent wrestler. So one we have from the production, Derek Director or Derek Direction, depending on how you want to call him. And then the other guy, his name is Alex Daniels, who I met him one time, and it was years ago, and he was doing a gimmick where he was Ben Affleck, and he would take a shirt off. He'd come out with a T-shirt on. It was like a big Ben Affleck face on it, and he'd take his shirt off and had another one on underneath it, and then the third one would be just a bunch of Ben Affleck faces all over it, and it was a funny gimmick. He was a decent wrestler. However, everyone in the wrestling business fucking hates him for some reason, and I don't know why. They all hate that guy. So something happened between now and when this was filmed that he's out of the business. But yeah, they're shaking him down trying to get money. And Solomon says, oh well, Matt and Amy are going to tag together, and they're gonna get this money for you. Now, here's the problem with this. So he's promising something that he wants to force them to do that they don't want to do. But what happens at the end of the movie, Luke?
Oh shit.
They end up tagging together in the very last part of the movie.
Yeah, you're right. I've just I've got it on my screen now. I just skipped forward. Yes, they end up tagging together.
Why?
It's so the cokehead doesn't get beat up by gangbangers or something, I guess.
Your bad guy shouldn't be trying to force your good guy to do something he ends up doing on his own because he wants to. Like, why? Like, I don't get it. Anyway, okay.
Can I also point out, no one calls the cops in this movie. He's missing for at least 24 hours because he misses a booking, right, the next day. So he's missing for at least 24 hours.
Well,
just calling the cops.
When he shows up to try to mess with Amy and Britt Baker shows up in that conversation, she goes, "Oh my God, you haven't seen him? Well, let's call the cops." And he goes, "Cops? What are they even going to do? What are we going to tell him?" He's like, "A pro wrestler didn't show up to his match. What's that going to do?" It's like, because he's a pro wrestler, the cops won't respond or something like that. Like, what the fuck? Maybe they're fans,
I'm pretty sure it doesn't matter if he's a wrestler or not, but I'm pretty sure if it's been 24 hours and your son and your wife have not seen you, I don't know if he's his wife or not, whatever, your son or your partner haven't seen you for a day, I'm pretty sure it doesn't matter what your job is.
Okay, so Matt scared off Paul with that story about the pit fighters and all that stuff, and so Paul had left the pizza. And this is one of the goofiest scenes in the movie that I don't even understand. So Matt, in disgust because he has no food, he picks up a piece of pizza and tries to eat it and then vomits. What? It's like we're trying to make some kind of parallel here with like eating shitty food, being a shitty person, being, living in your mother's basement, being a wrestling fan. These are all things that go together. You know what I mean? And Matt, because he's a good guy, even eating shitty food, even trying to makes him vomit. And it's like, what? Is there something missing? So now you like this one. You like this part. Go ahead, Luke. I'm sorry.
Sorry, this movie is an hour and 19 minutes. And there's scenes in it that we've mentioned that kind of confuse us. Like, where are they going with that? How much did they cut out? Because they could at least have gone to the 90-minute mark, right? That's another 10, 11 minutes. And that would have beefed up the story. I say that, but I don't want another 10 or 11 minutes of this.
You could have added 10 minutes of this movie by after the wrestling match, him talking to two other wrestlers about something else, and maybe you could have split that conversation into a couple different ones, and then having have more interactions than just with one fan. Show the other fans and how they act, so that an uneducated audience that doesn't know anything about how pro wrestling works can see how regular fans act, and then we can see that Paul's behavior is extra bad, when he first meets. But, that's 5 minutes right there you could add.
Like, so, out of the building. He's come out of the building, Matt Cross. He signs a couple friendly fan stuff, and maybe he got a call from his wife. So rather than sign everyone's, he's like, "Look, sorry guys, I've got to take this." And so maybe he shuns Paul without meaning to.
See?
And then Paul follows him around like a creep. Yeah, there we go.
Uh-oh. Yeah, we're redoing this movie in just a couple minutes, and they have years. But anyway, okay, so now this is one of your favorite parts, not your favorite part. We're not there yet, but one of your favorite parts is Paul does promos in the mirror with a puppet of himself, and then he wrestles the puppet. Tell me about this, Luke.
Oh, my God. So you think like the puppet's him. Is it him or is it an opponent? He does a promo in front of the mirror with the puppet, and then he slams the puppet down onto his bed and starts wrestling with it, which looks, yeah. And look, because it looks even more creepy because it looks like he's about to do dirty things. There's also pictures of naked ladies on his wall as well, and his bed's messy, and the whole place is a mess, which adds to the creep factor. So it doesn't look like it looks like he starts wrestling the puppet, but then maybe gets a little too excited, and I don't know, man. It's I love this scene because it's.
Well, why did you love it? You just told me a bunch of reasons to hate it. Why did you love it?
Because of all those reasons that I hated it. It was, you know, some things are so bad that they're good. I don't know why they thought this. We got a puppet. Oh, can you do something with this? Oh, sure, yeah. And then print it. No, that looks a little too naughty. That's as far as I'll go.
and that's another problem with this movie is it is straddling that line of so bad it's good, and every once in a while it kind of goes over the line into that area, and you're like, oh, okay, all right, cool, but then it comes right back to like serious, and we're not trying to be goofy, you know what I mean? So this was funny. I don't know if it was supposed to be funny, but it was. So next we get Cash and Amy. Cash comes home or something, or they come home together, and the camera's so close to them, I can't understand it. And Matt missed career day, and Cash and Amy discuss wrestling. They try to call Matt, but it goes right to voicemail. And Amy finally starts to get a little worried. She finally cares a little bit. So Paul rants at Matt even more. Paul wants to know why Amy left wrestling. Oh, and that strikes a nerve with Matt. This movie is starting to get very old, it says in my notes here. Paul rants about wrestling himself, and he makes Matt do jumping jacks. Why? Do you remember why? Because I don't.
Who cares?
Fair enough.
So we're. You and I watched this once. We might not have done our complete due diligence, but some movies kind of, no offense to your friends, but some movies don't deserve that kind of extreme due diligence. And this guy's making him jumping jacks and shit, and I'm just like, are you going to do them with him? Because, no offense, man, look at yourself. And I say that as a pretty tubby dude myself. I'm not going up to really fit people and going, you need to fucking exercise more.
Yes. What is this? Oh my God. All right, we're almost done here. All right, so which is because nothing happens in this movie too. That's the other thing. Nothing happens. We got he gets kidnapped, he gets out. That's the whole fucking movie. Nothing else happens. So we're almost done. Anyway, so Cash, the kid, he comes home, and that's another thing too. So we jump from this is another problem with the structure of your movie, is that you go from the wife and the kid in the house, all right, walking in, all right, and then they go to the guy down, Paul and Matt, we go to them, and we go right back, and Amy's at home, and the kid walks in. We just fucking saw you walk in. Why are you walking in again? So
I think the young kid said to his mum, "Can you excuse me for a moment, Mummy? I've just got to go to the little boy's room. I'll be back in a tick." I think maybe that was it.
He went out and got in a fight at school. So he left, went in the middle of the day, got home with his mom, went right back to school, all right, while his dad was doing jumping jacks, gets punched in the face, and comes right back inside. That's what we're left to believe. So
punched. He got punched up. He got beat up for loving school so much that he went back to school.
What are you doing here, nerd? That's awesome. So kids were making fun of his parents, and Cash defended their honor. And Amy tells Cash how to beat people up. She's like, yeah, punch him right here. And she points at her nose and then says the following line, when you punch him in the face, they can't see. No, you pointed at your nose. Say nose. I'm starting to get
Yeah.
it. It's just
That's
shit
okay.
like that. It's shit like that you watch it and you go, why would you point at your nose and then say face? This is like TNA. It's like watching fucking TNA, you know?
Breathe, Andrew.
I'm okay. I'm going to be fine. Okay, so
Breathe,
now
man.
the kid's getting beat up at school, whatever. So then we get the best scene in the movie. Britt Baker chugs vodka and dances in the bathroom wasted.
In a Shearer t-shirt too, which is kind of cool.
Why is this scene in here? I'm happy it was, but why was this scene in here? Do you have any idea?
No, you asked the wrong question. Not why is this scene in here? It's why isn't there more scenes like this in this movie? And I know I sound kind of sleazy here, but I will look. You and I both agree. The best actor in this might be Paul. Sorry, his name is Wes Allen, the creepy fan who plays Paul. Matt Cross is pretty good in this movie too. And what you were saying earlier, the third person who's probably the best is Britt Baker. She's the most memorable, one of the most memorable parts in the movie, and she's not in it that much. So yeah, that's me kind of backpedaling but yeah, her character was cool. Yeah, I really liked her.
That's the kind of thing some chick that has problems might do on a Friday night. You know, especially during the coronavirus thing. She might be in her bathroom, you know, putting makeup on her face in weird ways and chugging vodka and having a good old time. That might be something. She's like dancing to music and stuff. This is where we do have music because we have I can't remember what the song is, but there's a song playing here that during this. So that's where we do have some music. Now, she gets hyped and starts like dancing, but then she tweaks her knee a little bit and starts pounding vodka. So we gotta get that character shit in there that goes nowhere. So that's the one thing is her story never gets wrapped up. That's the last time we see her. She chugs a bunch of vodka and she's like, "See you later, movie," and there she goes. So, all right. So now we have a dream sequence. Matt is asleep and he dreams he's in a grave, being buried and burned by his son. What does it have to do with anything? It's got nothing to do with anything. Oh my God. Solomon does coke in his car and he's all fired up and he's like, "That fucking bitch, I'm gonna fucking fuck," and he keeps saying fuck and he's doing coke, whatever. Matt stands up to Paul and Paul has pictures which are actually like printed out like legit like film pictures of Cash, Matt's son, which is weird. Where'd he get those? Weird. And Solomon hypes himself up to go beat up Amy, and he beats on her door and yells at her. And I just wondered to myself, okay, so earlier in the movie, you just walked in. Now you're beating on doors. Now we're knocking.
Yeah, if you've only got a light conversation, it's fine, just barge in. But if you're serious about what you have to say, I guess that's when you knock on the door.
That's how you know that he's serious. So Paul and Matt are back in the basement again, and this is where we're supposed to be having a parallel thing, like we did earlier, where Amy fought the guy off, and basically we had Matt holding the other person so she could fight her own fight. That's kind of what we're trying to do here. So, and Paul is down there and he staples the pictures to Matt, right? He has a staple gun and he staples them to Matt, and Matt sells those like they're death, which is really funny because in a second he doesn't sell something else, but he sells pulling the staple out. But Amy beats up Solomon. Done. And the kid's there, and she's like, "Go upstairs," and she just beats the fuck out of him. And then we move back to Paul and Matt. Paul says he needs to eliminate the family distractions, meaning he's going to kill Matt's family. Now, Luke, you watch wrestling. You know there's one thing you cannot fucking do. You can't fucking do it, and that's talk about people's family, right? Isn't that like how half the matches are made in WWE?
Hasn't that been every WWE storyline in the last year?
So was it Shane McMahon was the worst? It's like he'd say something about his kids, and he just like he turns into it's like in Rebel Without a Cause. What are you, coward? What are you, yellow? And he's like, what'd you say? Nobody calls me that. It's like that. So he loses his mind, and because you can't talk about his kid. Now, did you understand what happened here? Because we see a bloody thing, and I'm not kidding. I have no idea what it is. A bloody thing. It reminds me of the Blair Witch Project when they open up that little packet. It's supposed to be like a bloody ear, and you're like, I looks just like flesh. I don't know what that is. So he pulls out this bloody thing. We see a shot of that, and then Matt is free all of a sudden, and he beats up Paul. What did you think happened?
All right, my problem is, right, he's got his wrists chained, so he can't get the wrists over his hands. So it looked to me like he bit off maybe the pointer finger of one of his hands to get the chain off. The problem with that being is you wouldn't bite that off. You bite your thumb off because the thumb is what you can't kind of tuck in and kind of get under there. So with that gone, you kind of will slip out because you've got the blood lubricated. I don't know why I know so much about this. Don't look under my house. I had this problem once before, and, make sure you don't just chain them up. You put duct tape around their fingers too. But yeah, he bites one of his fingers off when he should have bitten off one of his thumbs, because that would have made kind of more sense. But yeah, that's kind of how he gets free, and then he beats the shit out of Paul big time.
Yeah, he may have killed Paul. We're not sure. But I didn't know what happened. I just saw fleshy mass. He's free. I don't know what happened. And then until I saw him holding his hand, that's when I realized what happened. Because I didn't notice. And this was the only special effect in the movie. So it wasn't very special, and it didn't have much of an effect. I'm sorry. But so he beats the shit out of him, right? And then it's hilarious because his hand is falling apart. Half of it's missing, basically, and he's holding that, but then he pulls out the staples, and he's like, ah! I just lost it. I laughed so hard at that, because he's selling staples, and his fucking fingers are gone.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Amazing. So Amy continues to beat up Solomon, and then she and Matt reunite in the yard, and that's almost it. Then we get a denouement. 6 months later, Matt and Amy tag team again, and they play the We Watch Wrestling theme as credits roll, and we get In Memory of Chandler Biggins, which is awesome. He was one of the owners of AIW that passed away, unfortunately, a couple years ago. He's a good dude from all accounts. So,
can I make a point here?
Yes, please.
Paul. They intimate, or they state explicitly that Paul lives with his mum, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you never hear her yell out, going, "What's going on down there?"
You do. You hear her, but you never see her. You hear her saying, "Oh, what's going on?" She does call. Remember, there was one time where she's yelling. She needs her medication. That's what she's yelling at one point.
I'll give you that, but did she not notice a bloody Matt Cross exiting her house, sans fingers or something like?
What? Does he yell at her to call the police? He tells somebody to call the police, or maybe he calls. So that's what it is. He walks up, says 911, and 911's like, emergency. 911, what's the emergency? And he's like, trace this call, and just hangs it up like, yeah, motherfucker. And he walks out. They reunite, and yeah, I wish this was good. I really wanted this to be good. I hope that these people aren't discouraged and they continue to try, because, again, if this was a first try, good job. If you did this with no money, you did a great job. You did okay. Let's put it that way. If you did this with a huge budget and all the time in the world, then, but they shot this.
Nose, man.
They shot it over 8 days. So this was shot over 8 days. And there was even a point where I don't know how many days this was split up as, but Matt Cross had to go for a European tour during this filming, and then come back and refilm and film a lot of the shots with Paul in the basement. Those were kind of filmed all on separate time. So, they did it quickly. I don't know why it took 2 years to get it out. It was a crowdfunded thing. At the end of the credits, you see all the different people that donated, and that's cool. That's a cool thing. Luke, do you recommend this movie?
No. Oh, do you want more? Look, I wanted it to be good too because I love wrestling. I like Matt Cross. I like Britt Baker. I thought this could be quite fun. It seemed like a movie with wrestlers that might be a little bit more real rather than the craziness of, say, Naked Man, or just a movie that just so happens to have a wrestler in it. So I was looking forward to that kind of angle to it. But they don't get that quite right too, because the sound is just absolutely abysmal. Maybe they needed to release this next year and just fix the sound. The acting isn't good. And look, no offense to everyone in it, but none of them are megastar actors and stuff, and that's fine. But the acting's kind of bad. And when we say that Paul, Wes Allen, who plays Paul, is good, Matt Cross is good, and Britt Baker is good, all I mean by that is they're just better than everyone else who's kind of Amy, who is in this movie quite a bit, she's just okay. I think the director must have been blown away by her face or something, because he just wanted to get all up in that. Yeah.
There shouldn't be scenes with her and Britt Baker, because Britt Baker like outshines her. She's a star. You know what I mean? When you see her on screen, your eyes are on her and not Amy, who's a main character in the movie. So, I mean, I pointed out a lot of things that I find are mistakes. I don't know if I could do better, but this is a film review show, so we're reviewing it, so don't get mad. But, man, okay, so Luke, you've been doing some film reviews lately, and you lately did the kind of like H.P. Lovecraft series, right? You did like Reanimator and all that stuff. What you really like horror movies, right?
Yeah,
what?
I do.
So this movie calling itself a horror movie is kind of offensive, right? Because there wasn't any horror in it at all.
I was never scared. There's nothing horrifying in it. I mean, a dude bites his finger to escape. That's kind of gross, but like he's chained to a wall with really thin chains, by the way. And since Matt Cross is like super fucking jacked, why couldn't he just like hulk out and just rip, like maybe not break the chains, but like rip the chains off the wall? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this guy's really jacked. He should have just ripped that off and just wrapped the chain around Paul and just choked him out or something. But there's no real horror elements in it to make it a horror movie, except bad acting. There's a lot of horror movies have bad acting in it. Like one of those Reanimator movies, Beyond Reanimator, the third one that was made in 2003. Awful. Some of the acting in that is worse than some of the acting I saw in this film. No kidding.
Well,
but that movie had a coherent story, so I kind of give it a bit more props.
Right. And that's the thing. I mean, if you want to watch this movie and have fun making fun of it, or if you want to watch it and see your friends on it and stuff like that, if you're from Ohio, I get it. It's, but here's what I would say. I would say that, this movie is now available to purchase on Amazon. So I would recommend that you wait till it's on. If you're going to watch this, I would recommend you wait till it's on streaming, like for free somewhere. Because I can't in good conscience tell people to go buy this, as a recommendation, because I don't think it's not as advertised. So let's put it that way. So, Luke, where can folks check out your reviews? And they're not usually as long as this one, although you did have that 20-minute episode the other day, and I was like, holy shit, you covered 3 movies, but damn, that's still long ones for your 3 movies. Where can folks find you for this stuff?
So I think if I ever do another horror franchise, I might just do one a week rather than just do bang, bang, bang and in one giant video. Because now I'm expecting people to sit on their butts for 20 minutes and watch my chubby ass talk about crap. But I'm on YouTube. LSJ is, my name's Luke Sims Jenkins. So, you find me on YouTube under LSJ Reviews. It's mostly horror and crime and some modern movies and stuff too. I guess I've been cherry picking stuff that I've been wanting to watch, I guess because of the Corona bullshit. But I did watch Air Bud for a laugh, the basketball playing dog movie. And
You were not happy.
I've done Doolittle and Air Bud, and I think my wife is right. I'm a lot more sweary and angry on the kids' movies than I am, I guess, on other ones. But yeah, that's where you can find me. I'm also on Twitter. Grumpy2EB is there. I'm there too. So yeah, check them out.
Hey man, I'm really sorry that you had to watch this movie. I mean, technically it's your fault, but I mean, if we, but thank you for doing this with me. I hope, 2 out of 3 ain't bad because I think that, obviously Ed Wood was a winner, and I think The Naked Man was a winner just because it was just a weird, goofy movie that had a lot of things to talk about and a lot of redeeming factors. This movie. If you like Britt Baker, you'll like this movie. If you like bad movies, I guess you'll like it. I don't know. I say wait till it comes out on streaming for free. Check it out then if you want to. It's only 80 minutes. There is that. But I don't know what else to say about it, man. You guys can find our show, The Road Home FW, on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and you can find me at Jerusalem for Tweets. Get out there and support some folks. We got a lot of independent wrestlers that need money right now, and I saw Dolph Ziggler bought 10 shirts off of a local wrestler from around here the other day, which is pretty cool, man. So there's a lot of folks out there helping people, and I hope that you're one of those. So anything else we need to talk about, Luke?
I'm sorry for choosing this movie.
It's okay. I forgive you.
I have to say, I did have a good experience watching it. I think you were 10 minutes ahead of me, and you and I were playfully riffing on it then. So I thought, all right, that's what made me think, all right, this episode is going to work because we had a good back and forth on the chat, and so even though the movie wasn't great, I thought, yeah, we could probably squeeze an episode out of this.
Well, I look forward to what we come up with next, because I'm sure we'll get something else. I mean, at least all these have been very interesting, and that's one thing that's always fun, is that as long as it's interesting, there's stuff to talk about, which we had in spades with this movie. So anyway, all right, man. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for listening.